Assalamu alaikum, dear students. I'm sure you are all quite well. Our today's lesson is about class and its types. In this lesson, we'll get to know what is a class and what are the two types of class that is dependent and independent class. And most importantly, we'll get to know how to make use of different types of clauses in sentences, and in the end you will have a little assessment in the form of a worksheet which you will have to solve. So clause is a group of words that forms part of a sentence and contains subject and predicate. For example, they played the match. In this sentence, they is the subject and played the match is predicate. You all know that subject is the doer of action, or it is something or someone we talk about in a sentence, whereas predicate is that part of a sentence which introduces a subject. So a sentence, a group of words which contains subject and predicate is called a clause. In the second example, you see because I am ill. Because is a conjunction, I is a subject, whereas am ill is predicate. So because I am ill is also a clause. In the third example, as he was not there. As is conjunction, he subject, whereas was not there is predicate. It's another example of a clause. We shall wait here until you come back. We is the subject, shall wait here is predicate, until is conjunction, you subject, come back is predicate. You find two clauses in this sentence. So in all, clause is a group of words that forms part of a sentence and it contains subject and predicate. Dear students, there are two types of clauses, independent clause and the other one is dependent clause. In the next coming slides, you will get to know what is an independent clause and what is a dependent clause. The first type of clause is independent clause. Independent clause is a complete sentence. It contains both subject and predicate. It can stand on its own, mean it gives out its own meaning. It does not have to depend on any other part of a sentence. Its formation is subject plus predicate. You see the examples. Aslam wrote a letter. Aslam is the subject and wrote a letter is predicate, and the sentence Aslam wrote a letter is the example of an independent clause. And you see it's a complete sentence. It can stand on its own. It has a subject and predicate. The second type of clause is dependent clause. As its name suggests, it is an incomplete sentence. It cannot stand on its own. It is dependent on independent clause for its meanings. Its formation is, it begins with subordinator. It has a subject. It has a predicate in it. Now, for example, as he was not there. Now, if you read out this sentence and you do not speak out the other part of the sentence, if you speak out the sentence till here, as he was not there, you see it gives an incomplete sense. It is not a complete sentence. Why? Because it begins with a subordinating conjunction, and we also call it a subordinator. As is subordinator, that is subordinating conjunction. He is subject, was not there is predicate. So it's an example of a dependent clause. In the second sentence, before the guests arrived. Before is a subordinator, subordinating conjunction. The guests is subject, arrived is predicate. Now you see it's again an incomplete sentence. It does not stand on its own. It does not give out any meaningful sense. That is why it is a dependent clause. So with this we come to conclude this lesson, that was about class and its types. We got to know what is a class and what are the two types of classes, dependent and independent class. Now in the end you have this worksheet. It contains 10 sentences. What you have to do is in each sentence the clause is underlined. You only have to name the underlined clause in each sentence and write whether it is independent clause or it is dependent clause. I'm sure you have understood this lesson quite fully and you won't be referring back to the slides of this lesson when you are doing this worksheet. It's in the form of a little assessment. Do it by your own self and check your understanding of the lesson. Thank you very much and have a nice day. Bye bye. Dear students, this is another worksheet related to the topic which we have covered so far, that is class and its types. Now here the task is little difficult. You have to identify independent and dependent clause in each sentence. This is a worksheet consisting of 10 sentences. You have to identify which part of this sentence is independent clause and which part is dependent clause. So be very careful when you are doing this exercise about the use of conjunction. The first thing is to identify the conjunction used in each sentence. From that you will very well be able to identify the two clauses, that is independent and dependent clause in the given sentences.